Guys, this is Lashette from Scarlet Moon Creations, and I'm back. This is my March reading wrap-up, where I talk about the last of the books I read in the month of March, but also give you my reading stats for the entire month. So this is a little late. Before I get started, I have two things I want to talk about. First of all, the video quality. I am filming this on something I don't normally use because the phone I had yesterday, literally yesterday, after whatever, is not working properly. So I need a new phone and or video recording device, and that's gonna take at least a week. So I'm not gonna apologize because shit happens, it's life, but yeah, this is a different quality, and that's why you deserve that explanation, if nothing else. The second thing is a lot of the videos I've been posting lately have been filmed a while ago, so please excuse the seeming erraticness of the inconsistency of this message. Sometimes I say this in the beginning of the video, sometimes I haven't, but it's very important to me that you guys go out and support Stop Asian Hate and Stop AAPI Hate. AAPI stands for Asian American and Pacific Islander. So basically there's been a major uptick in hate crimes against Asian Americans in the United States, or just Asians in the United States, due to the coronavirus, people taking their ignorance and frustrations out on innocent people of Asian descent. And I'm not with it. It's not okay. It's not okay. And I'm not gonna compare and contrast the different types of bigotry or racism. It doesn't matter. It's unacceptable. I implore you to look in my description to find and check out the links there to see ways you can support. Okay, so now about the books. I'm going to give you my reading stats, and then my outfit will change, and I'll talk about some books, and then at the end I'll come back with this outfit. But it's been a month. It's been a month, and a month of mostly pretty good reading, if I may say so. So let's get into it. I needed to adjust so I have some space here. So reading stats. The total amount of books I read in the month of March was 8 books. So that's less than February, but more than January. That's less than I had planned, but not bad. Total pages read 2,712. So that's only 200 and something pages less than the previous month when I read 11 books. So yeah, I was reading chunkier books this month for the most part. Hours listened 34, so there's an audiobook in there. My average rating is 3.88, so we're keeping that average. No books acquired or bought, but I did take out 12 library books. Now, regarding the library books, I took out 12, but I completed 3 library books in the month. I read a total of 6 library books in the month of March. So, not bad. Not bad at all. And 3 of those books were owned voices. So keeping that going from last month. Let's talk about the genres. To no one's surprise, I read 5 fantasy books, 2 romance, and 1 sci-fi, 4 maths, 1 audiobook, 1 audiobook, 6 ebooks, and 1 physical book. This camera is not nice to my under eye bags. More audience. All 8 books I read were adult, not books. 7 identity. 7 were cisgender and 1 gender fluid. Race. 2 with Black main characters. 1 with a Latinx main character. And 1 mixed. Mixed in that case being several people from different races. And then 3 with white main characters. Sexuality, I had just one book with a queer main character, and my types, I read 2 standalones and 6 series. No rereads this month. Last but not least is the ratings. Not bad. 1 4.5 star read, 5 4-star reads, 1 3.5 star read, and 1 3-star read. So nothing too bad. So that is my monthly reading stats. I'm still playing with this 2021 book tracker spreadsheet that I'm using, meaning I'm still adjusting it to what I want this year. So just FYI, my stats might change a little bit in the next one, in my mid-February wrap-up video, I mean. But yeah, let's talk about the books. New outfit. So the next book I read in the month of March was Saga Volume 4. This is a graphic novel series. I'm reading this slowly because it's currently on hiatus, but this is an adult graphic novel. It's a sci-fi series, very adult. It's very graphically violent and sexual. There's basically we're following a couple who are each from different worlds which have been at war with each other for a very long time. And they are supposedly the first biracial or bi-species couple from these 2 worlds. One was a guard or in the military, and the other was this random dude who happened to be arrested, and they fell in love. It's a slightly ridiculous story. It's very... I haven't read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but I feel like it has a similar ridiculous vibe. There are serious topics covered, but it's all slightly ridiculous. So they're being hunted down by both of their countries' governments for daring to be in a relationship and have a child. And the story is told from the perspective of their daughter, and I think it's all in past tense. So in this volume, They seem to have found a place to live calmly for a while. Some time has passed, bigger time jump than between the previous volumes. So I think that is the case. It's not directly stated, but they're still being hunted. But so they've managed to actually settle down for a little bit of time, and things. So we get new things happening to them. The mother's job is very very interesting. I was like, what is happening here? But it's very interesting to think about how these two individuals just literally trying to mind their business and be a happy couple on their own. Like, they're not trying to stop the war or anything like that. They just want to live their lives. And their relationship is affecting so many people, beings, even outside of those from their planets. Other planets that have trades and treaties with their planets, and just other people. It's very amazing, and I still love this. The artwork is wonderful. And this is by Brian K. Vaughan, and the artist is Fiona Staples, and I love the artwork as always. I did want to read this, but I picked this up at this point because of Becca's bookoplathon, which was for the 48-hour version. Don't remember what I read it for. I slept, I think, maybe 8 hours, maybe 10 hours the whole weekend, so it's all a blur. I will come back and give you guys what books I read for what prompts, but I know I read this for Becca's bookoplathon. The next thing I finished was Haven by Rebecca Weatherspoon. This is a contemporary romance by a Black female author. It's a biracial romance. We have Black female and white male. This is, I wish it was longer. I feel like that's going to be my main issue with Rebecca Weatherspoon books. I thought that this was longer, but it's not. Haven is book 1 in the Beards and Bondage series, which I've been wanting to read. We're following Claudia, who is a city girl. She goes with her brother out to the wilderness. I think it's the Pacific Northwest, but I might be assuming because I often think these things. They go out to the forest and for camping. She's not really a camper, but her brother is, and they haven't hung out in a while, so they're doing this, and they are attacked. And Claudia winds up running through the forest looking for any sign of life because she's trying to survive, basically, this killer. She comes across Shep's cabin in the woods. Shep lives by himself with just his dog. And, he's just gotten back from a trip, a little sexy trip to a BDSM vacation. For lack of better terms. But so he's sleeping, minding his business. All of a sudden, there's this terrified Black woman at his door, and he goes out to protect her. And now they have this connection that is weird. And they're both dealing with this traumatic situation. So I knew the synopsis for the story, but I didn't realize we were gonna start with the traumatic events, and it's very like in your face. Like things I didn't like. I wish we got more background on as to the killer. I wish, because it's never really explained. I guess this is from Claudia and Shep's points of view. So we kind of gloss over the trial or whatever. The FBI comes out and they have attitude for reasons I don't really quite understand. And I guess I would have liked more concrete details into Shep's past. So all of that aside, right? Because I feel like these things were left for us to expand the story, to make it more believable, and it did, but I would have liked some more, and that would have given me a longer book. But that being said, I really enjoyed their relationship. The chemistry was definitely there. I thought it was very realistic the way it was done. There was a lot of back and forth, and they tried some things and it didn't work out, and then she left, and then they moved on, and then she came back and he was like, what the fuck? And all of that seemed very realistic to me. So I don't know, I gave this 4 stars because why not? It was an intense relationship, and Shep has a beard, so, and I already explained the bondage part. But yeah, next book I completed, Shuri number 4. This is the comic book series I'm slowly reading. I own all of these copies through the, is it Marvel Unlimited app or just the Marvel app? I don't remember, guys. It's very simple to go check it out. So yeah, I literally read comic number 4 in this series. So things are changing up a little bit. We're following Shuri, who is King T'Challa's younger sister. King T'Challa is also Black Panther. If you've been under a rock somewhere, like, none of that should be a surprise to you, or that's the only way that would be a surprise to you. So the basis, the foundation of the story in the first comic is that T'Challa and I think it's Mankind, I thought at some point I'll actually like look up this man's name, but they go on a space mission. The plan is for them to go through a wormhole in a ship that Shuri has designed to be able to track them even on the other side of the wormhole. It's either a wormhole or a black hole, excuse me. So, but the mission doesn't go according to plan because they go through the wormhole and that's not what happened. So they're lost on a mission in space. Shuri can't track them, and now everyone left behind is trying to figure out where they are and how to take care of Wakanda while T'Challa is gone. Shuri has been trying various technical and scientific ways of finding them. Meanwhile, her mother is trying to convince Shuri to take over the mantle of Black Panther, which she has done before. And Shuri's like, no. And there's been some new attempts at both taking care of Wakanda and finding T'Challa, their king. Over the course in this particular comic, we are finding more about the politics in Wakanda, stuff that even Shuri and her mother were not aware of. There's some consequences coming to them from the previous comic as well, and it was very interesting. I like that I'm slowly learning more about Wakanda. There's the spiritual aspect as well, so that is something I really enjoy. Yeah, I gave this 4 stars as well. It's really, I gotta think about rating comics and graphic novels versus books, because it's harder. Like, there's literally a continuous story, so I don't know. I feel like with manga, it's easier somehow, but I should probably group those in there as well, right? Anyway, I'm back, and I've got one more book to talk about for this month. And the final book I finished in the month of March was Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson. This is book 3 in the Stormlight archive. So technically, I'm admitting this, but technically I finished this in April. I finished it on April 1st, but it was in the morning, so I'm counting it. It took me a while to figure out what I wanted to rate Oathbringer. I actually used G at Book Roast Call Pile to help me out, and I decided on 3.5 stars. Call Pile gave it 3, but I feel like 3.5 is better. I like this because I went back and looked at Way of Kings. I like this more than Way of Kings, but I think 2 things kind of took away from it a bit for me. Those things are, one, I started it in December and again attempted a little bit in February and whatnot. So like it even though, like I said, I read the bulk of it in March, there was some stop and startness about it. The other thing is because there were so many points of views for the bulk of this that I kept getting invested in what was going on with this set of characters or this character, and then it changed. So, to another point of view, the end, the last 2 parts, part 4 and 5, we mostly stayed with the same people minus the interludes, which is a different thing altogether. But yeah, so let me give you a synopsis, not of Oathbringer, because that would be spoilers for the first 2 books in the series, but Stormlight Archive, Way of Kings. So we're dealing with the planet Roshar, which has several countries and governments on it. And on Roshar, things are different than they are here on Earth. They have, what do they call them? Storms that sweep across the country at regular intervals, so powerful that trees pull in their branches, grasses retract into the ground to avoid them, animals hide in their shells. Cities are built, to protect their inhabitants from these storms. People don't go outside. It is literally unsafe to be outside during the storms. And they've been going on for centuries. Roshar also has a history of the Knights Radiant, who are these 10 orders of knights from centuries ago, who fought wars against the Voidbringers and protected the average person. Now, currently on the Shattered Plains, there's a war going on between 2 factions because one killed the king of the other. And so they're trying to get their revenge, as it were. We follow in the Way of Kings 3 main characters. That's Dalinar, who was the brother of the king who was killed and who is with his nephew, the son, the new king, pushing this war forward to get revenge for the death of his brother, but also dealing with some visions, which might or might not be about the Knights Radiant of the past, and he's not sure if he's still sane or not. The other character we're dealing with is Kaladin, who was I almost said Rube because I was reading something else. A young guy from the countryside, whose father was a physician of some kind, and he joined an army to go to war to protect his younger brother, and in doing so somehow became a slave. And then the last person we're following is a young lady called Shallan, who is from a completely different country, who through subterfuge is trying to become the ward of Jasna, another woman who is doing research or whatever. And Shallan is doing this to attempt to save her family. So now we're on to book 3, Oathbringer, and things are not quite the same, but we still have all of these characters and more. And I like all the characters. This is a really well written book. The story is very good. I think I was a little bit burnt out with reading the previous 2 books, and with everything, the holidays and stress and winter, and honestly planning for the next year and doing all the videos that I did, I think I was just too tired to really focus on Oathbringer, so I put it off. I don't own the book. I have to take it out from the library, and it's very popular, so I have to wait a while for it to get back to me. And so I think stretching it out took some of the enjoyment away from me, but definitely, like I said, I read the bulk of it in the month of March, and there was just so many points of view, and I think I'm realizing this because I'm also reading the Lashette Traders series, which has so many points of views that I don't like this endless POV option. It's just it feels like too much, and I care less about the characters when there's so many of them. And then because we're constantly switching, it's like I get invested in certain people because I've known them longer or something interesting's happening, but then we don't get back to them for a while because we're off with all these other people. So, that being said, this is really still well crafted. Brandon Sanderson is still amazing. I just, my enjoyment level was not as high. It was me, and these ratings are for myself. So, you can see my ratings, and I'll put a written review there soon on Goodreads and Storygraph. Just so when I go back, I can see an explanation. But it's public, so if you want to see, you can. My links are down in the description. But anyway, the reveals at the end were interesting. I have to say that there was one that I wasn't expecting, but I wasn't surprised by. Pretends to be shocked that human beings are shitty. So there's that. If you know, you know. Other stuff, like my man Teft, I love it. What is his name? Adeline's brother. I love that. I hope he does well. Dalinar is my favorite character at the moment. My favorite main character. Rock is still a fave. I have to say, though, I am worried about him in the next book. Like, the intrigue was good. The plot was good. The characters were well written, even all these point of views. I feel like I didn't need all those point of views. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I didn't enjoy it as much because of that. That doesn't mean the book was badly written. It just took away from my enjoyment. I will continue this series, of course. So this is like I had planned, I had planned to finish the Stormlight archives up to what was published last year. And in my plan, the Oathbringer was the last thing published. But last year, Brandon Sanderson put out 2 more books. Dawn Shard, a ebook, what is that? Novella, and then Stormlight Archive 4, Rhythm of War. Those are brand new books, and since I'm getting them from the library, it's gonna be difficult, especially since my library doesn't have Dawn Shard. So, I'm just here, stuck. But I'm okay. I'm also reading these books for the Stormlight read-along, and what is it? That group, that Brant Sanderson read-along thing in Discord. So I finished the goal to complete a series up to what was published that I have access to. So maybe sometime this year, if I can get to Dawn Shard, then yeah. Rhythm of War, it'll take time only because I have to wait until the book is available. But Dawn Shard, I need the book to be at the library. Let's talk about those books I read for Becca's bookoplathon. In these reading wrap-ups, these recent reads videos, I talk about the books that I completed in that month. Becca's bookoplathon was a little bit different. It was a 48-hour live readathon. I didn't get a lot of sleep, and I really felt confused as to what I read for what. At the end of it, even a few days later, when I talked about those books on camera. So some time has passed, and I've had some clarity, and I've looked at the prompts again, and looked at my books again, and can give you a brief synopsis of what I've read for what. So that is what's going to happen here, and then I'll talk about my final book. So, for fantasy and my chance card read, I read Saga Volume 4, and I'm talking about that first because that's the one I definitely know. I picked that as a chance card. I had chance cards with books that I wanted to read and weren't so sure about from last year's month-long bookoplathon. So yeah, I was too tired to try to come up with books I really wanted to read and books I kind of didn't want to read. And then, you know, my whole thing is using library books, so I need to somewhat plan ahead. That's a little difficult here. So yeah, and I didn't have the energy to go through the books that I actually do own to figure out that. So thankfully I had those chance cards left over from the last year's bookoplathon, the month-long one, and I pulled from there, and a bunch of those I've already read since then, but Saga Volume 4 came up, and yes, there is POC rep, the other prompt here too, but it's a sci-fi, so they're not quite the same people of color type, so yeah, I had other books to fit that, obviously. Mainly Haven by Rebecca Weatherspoon, which I read for the contemporary prompt, the POC rep prompt, and first in a series prompt, which was great. When those came up back to back, I was like, yes, this fits that too, because that is book 1 in her Beards and Bonded series. One of the main characters is a black woman, and it's a contemporary romance series, as I said. And the last book I finished during Becca's Bookoplathon, Shuri, a comic book number 4. I counted that for other. I can also count for POC rep. We're talking about Wakanda setting where everyone, for the most part, is black. But yeah, I don't comics, graphic novels, even though I read 2 during Becca's Bookoplathon, don't normally count. I don't normally read very often. Those are not my top 2 genres, though I do enjoy them. They're not exactly genres though. So if you look at this as a superhero book, I don't normally read those as often as I do just general fantasy and romance. So yeah, the only other book I had the prompt for that I did not complete was book with a dark cover, which is Herbal Apothecary, and I'm still not finished with it, but I'm just gonna mention it real quick. It's a nonfiction book, hence the other. I do read nonfiction, but nowhere near as often as I read fiction. So, but yeah, I did read a chunk of this during Becca's Bookoplathon 2. I was hoping to have Oathbringer be counted for fantasy, but I didn't finish it, obviously, during that weekend. I tried to push, because I was reading that along with all these other books, but it didn't work out. So it is what it is. So those were the books I read in the month of March. How was your March reading month? Mine was pretty good. No 5 stars, but we got close. I had a fantasy romance that I absolutely loved. There was a little bit keeping it from being that 5-star. Everything else was pretty solid, to be perfectly honest. There was nothing bad here. Even the book I didn't complete this month that I just mentioned really quickly. Great. So, did you guys participate in Becca's Bookoplathon? And also, have you read Stormlight Archive or the Lashette Traders, Realm of the Elderling? Let me know what you thought about Matship and Oathbringer. Also, are you a fan of Christina Lauren or the Blood and Ash series? Because I definitely want to hear your thoughts on those. I will be back in my mid-month wrap-up soon. So, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when that video drops. Obviously, I do have other video content. If you're interested in those, you'll see those coming soon. And thank you guys, as always, so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.